I was 19 when I met Rodney at the campus coffee shop, hunched over his economics textbook with this intense focus that made me want to break through whatever wall he'd built around himself. He looked up when I asked if the chair across from him was taken, and something in his eyes made my stomach flip. Not the practice charm I was used to from college guys, but something genuine and unguarded. "Please sit," he said, closing his book immediately. I could use the distraction. That first conversation lasted 4 hours. We talked about everything and nothing, our words weaving together like we'd known each other for years. He was studying business but wanted to write novels. I was majoring in communications but secretly dreamed of photography. We both came from small southern towns where everyone knew your business before you did. "You're like the boy version of me," I told him that night as we walked across campus under the street lights. He laughed, but I could tell he felt it too. That recognition, like looking in a mirror that reflected back all your best qualities. The next 2 years flew by in a blur of late-night study sessions, weekend road trips, and the kind of easy intimacy I'd never experienced before. Rodney remembered how I liked my coffee, showed up with soup when I was sick, and listened to my anxieties about the future without trying to fix everything immediately. When graduation approached, the question hung between us like morning fog. He'd already secured a position at a consulting firm in Charlotte. I had offers in 3 different states. None of them North Carolina. "Come with me," he said one evening as we sat on his apartment balcony sharing cheap wine. "I know it's a big ask, but I can't imagine doing this next chapter without you." The smart thing would have been to take the job in Atlanta with the higher salary and better career prospects. But looking at Rodney's face, hopeful and vulnerable in the porch light, I knew I'd already made my decision. "Okay," I said. "Let's do this together." His smile could have powered the entire campus. Moving to Charlotte felt like playing house at first. We found a decent apartment in South Own, split the bills down the middle, fell into domestic routines that surprised me with their comfort. Rodney left little notes in my lunch bag. I learned to make his grandmother's biscuit recipe. On Sunday mornings, we'd read different sections of the newspaper and trade commentary. This is nice, I'd think, watching him concentrate on the crossword puzzle. This is what people mean when they talk about partnership. But something shifted when the pandemic hit. Suddenly our cozy apartment felt like a cage. Rodney adapted to working from home with his usual methodical approach, setting up a proper office space and maintaining his routines. I struggled more. My marketing job became a series of endless video calls and performance metrics that felt meaningless when the world was falling apart. "Maybe we should get a bigger place," Rodney suggested one evening after I'd spent 20 minutes complaining about hearing his conference calls through the thin walls. "It's not about the space," I snapped, then immediately felt guilty. But it wasn't about the space. It was about the growing feeling that I was suffocating in a life I'd chosen too young, before I knew what other options existed. I was 23 and felt like I was already settled into middle age. My sister called during one of my particularly dark moods. "You know," she said carefully, "you could do better than Rodney." "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean, he's nice and all, but you're young and beautiful and smart. You could have anyone. Are you sure you want to be tied down to the first guy you got serious with?" The seed, once planted, was impossible to ignore. My college friends who'd stayed single were posting pictures from rooftop bars and weekend trips to Miami. They were dating, exploring, figuring themselves out. Meanwhile, I was meal planning and splitting utilities with someone I'd chosen when I barely knew who I was. "I keep thinking about what else is out there," I confided to my friend Sarah during one of our socially distanced walks. "That's totally normal," she assured me. "Most people date around before settling down. You never got that chance." At family dinners, the comments became more frequent. My cousin mentioned how her boyfriend had surprised her with a weekend in Savannah. My aunt asked pointed questions about my career goals and whether Charlotte was really where I saw myself long-term. "Rodney's holding you back," my mother said finally. "Not intentionally, but you're compromising your potential for his stability." The worst part was that Rodney remained completely oblivious to my growing restlessness. He brought me flowers for no reason, planned elaborate date nights in our apartment, and talked excitedly about our future together. "I've been thinking," he said one evening as we watched Netflix. "Maybe we should start looking at houses. Build some equity instead of throwing money away on rent." The walls felt like they were closing in. "That's a big step." We've been together for 4 years, Kel. I love you. I want to build a life with you. His certainty terrified me. How could he be so sure when I felt like I was drowning in questions I couldn't even articulate? Work became my escape. I volunteered for every project that required late nights or weekend hours. The distance felt necessary, like giving myself room to breathe. You're working too much, Rodney worried. When's the last time we just spent time together? I'm trying to advance my career, I said, hating how defensive I sounded. I know, and I'm proud of you. I just miss you. His patience made everything worse. If he'd been jealous or controlling, I could have justified the growing resentment. Instead, he was supportive and understanding, which only highlighted how trapped I felt by his goodness. The thoughts started small. Wondering what it would be like to go out without checking in with someone. Imagining conversations with strangers who didn't know my history or expectations. Fantasizing about making decisions based purely on what I wanted, not what we wanted. I need some independence, I told Sarah over lunch. I need to know who I am outside of this relationship. So take a break, she said. See what else is out there. If it's meant to be with Rodney, he'll still be there when you figure yourself out. The idea took root. Maybe I could explore what I'd missed, get it out of my system, and come back more certain about what I wanted. But Rodney seemed to sense me pulling away. He planned more date nights, suggested couples activities, talked about taking a vacation together. I was thinking about proposing soon, he mentioned casually one morning over coffee. My blood turned to ice. Really? I've been saving up for a ring. I know you're not big on surprises, so I wanted to give you a heads up. Maybe sometime in the next few months. The next few months. The timeline felt like a countdown to a life sentence. That's a big step, I managed. The biggest, he agreed, reaching across to squeeze my hand. But I've never been more sure of anything. His certainty felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. The job loss came at the worst possible time. Or maybe the best time, depending on how you looked at it. Budget cuts, they said. Last hired, first fired. I'm so sorry, Kelly. Your performance has been excellent, but we have to make some difficult decisions. I sat in my car afterward, staring at the box of personal items in my passenger seat. 3 years of building a career, gone in a 15-minute conversation. Rodney was immediately supportive when I called to tell him. It's going to be okay, he said. We'll figure this out together. Maybe this is an opportunity to find something even better. But I didn't want to figure it out together. I wanted to figure it out alone, without having to consider someone else's needs and timeline and feelings. That night, as Rodney researched job opportunities and networking events, something crystallized in my mind. This was my sign. My chance to step off the path I'd been following without really choosing it. What if I moved back home for a while? I said suddenly. He looked up from his laptop. What? Just temporarily. While I figure out my next move. My parents have been asking me to visit, and I could use some time to think about what I really want. We can think about it together, he said. You don't have to go through this alone. But that was exactly what I wanted. To go through it alone. To make decisions without considering his feelings or our shared future or the ring he was saving up to buy. I think I need some space, I said. The words hung in the air between us. Rodney's face went through several expressions before settling on careful confusion. Space to do what? To figure out who I am, what I want. I've never been on my own, Rodney. I went straight from my parents' house to living with you. So we'll get separate apartments. You can have all the space you need. It's not about the physical space. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed quickly by panic. Kelly, if this is about the proposal, we can wait. We can take things slower. It's not about the timeline. It's about, I don't know how to explain it. And I didn't. How do you tell someone that their love feels like a cage? That their certainty makes you claustrophobic? That you need to know what else is out there before you can appreciate what you have? Are you breaking up with me? The question hung between us like a blade. I could take it back, reassure him, find a compromise. But looking at his face, so hopeful and terrified, I felt something shut down inside me. I think I need to go home for a while. The next morning, I started packing. Rodney hovered nearby, alternating between trying to help and asking questions I couldn't answer. How long is a while? I don't know. Will we talk while you're gone? I don't know. Kelly, please. Help me understand what's happening. But I couldn't explain it because I didn't understand it myself. I just knew I had to go. Had to see what life looked like without his steady presence and unconditional support. When I zipped up the last suitcase, Rodney followed me to the door. This doesn't have to be the end, he said. Whatever you're going through, we can work through it together. I need to work through it alone. Then he dropped to his knees right there in our entryway, tears streaming down his face. Please don't go. Please. I love you. We can fix this. Looking down at him, I felt nothing. No sadness, no regret, no second thoughts. Just a cold determination to get in my car and drive away from the life that had started to feel like a prison. I'm sorry, I said, and walked out. The drive to my parents' house took 4 hours. I spent most of it feeling lighter than I had in months, like I'd finally done something brave instead of just safe. My parents were surprised but welcoming. You can stay as long as you need, my mother assured me. This might be exactly what you needed. I threw myself into job hunting with energy I hadn't felt in years. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 interviews lined up. Within a month, I'd accepted a position at a digital marketing agency that offered exactly the kind of creative challenges my old job had lacked. See, my sister said when I told her about the new job. You're already thriving without him holding you back. My new coworkers were young and social. They invited me to happy hours and weekend plans. I said yes to everything, making up for the years I'd spent in domestic contentment. You seem so much happier, my friend Jessica observed after a particularly fun night out. More like yourself. I was happier. Or at least I was busier, which felt like the same thing. Rodney called occasionally during those first few weeks. I let most of the calls go to voicemail, listening to his messages later with detached curiosity. I miss you. I hope you're doing well. Call me when you're ready to talk. I got that promotion I was hoping for. I wish I could celebrate with you. I've been thinking about what you said about needing space. I think I understand better now. After a month of silence, I decided to drive back to Charlotte to pick up some things I'd left behind. Rodney was home when I arrived, and the hope in his eyes when he opened the door almost made me turn around. You look good, he said. Happy. I am happy. The new job is great, and I'm meeting lots of interesting people. We talked for an hour, carefully avoiding the big questions. He told me about work, his family, the new restaurant that had opened down the street. I told him about my job, my parents, the hiking group I joined. I'm glad you're doing well, he said when I got up to leave. I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. His grace made me feel magnanimous. Maybe we can be friends. I'd like that. I visited 2 more times over the next month, each time feeling more confident in my decision. Rodney seemed to be adjusting to our new dynamic, treating me like a friend he was genuinely happy to see. The conversations were easier, lighter. I started to think we might actually manage a mature, amicable transition. My new life was everything I'd wanted. Independence, interesting work, social connections that weren't tied to couple friends or shared history. I was dating casually, nothing serious, just enjoying the experience of meeting new people without the weight of expectation. You're glowing, my mother observed one evening over dinner. This break was exactly what you needed. I agreed. I felt like myself again. Or maybe like myself for the first time. Then, sometime around the 3-month mark, everything changed. I woke up one Tuesday morning from a dream about Rodney. Not a romantic dream exactly, but one where we were just existing together in our old apartment, sharing coffee and comfortable silence. The dream felt more real than my actual surroundings. When I opened my eyes to my childhood bedroom, something inside me cracked. The feeling followed me to work. A strange hollowness that I couldn't shake. My coworkers' jokes didn't seem as funny. The creative project I'd been excited about felt pointless. Even my lunch tasted like nothing. That night, I called Sarah. I had the weirdest day. I kept thinking about Rodney. That's normal, she assured me. You were together for 5 years. You're bound to have some residual feelings. But it didn't feel residual. It felt immediate and urgent, like I'd suddenly remembered something crucial I'd forgotten. The dreams continued. Every night, Rodney appeared in scenarios both mundane and impossible. We were grocery shopping, planning a vacation, arguing about what to watch on Netflix. I woke up each morning feeling more disoriented, like I was living in the wrong reality. Maybe you should talk to someone, my mother suggested when I mentioned feeling unsettled. A therapist might help you process everything. But I didn't want to process it. I wanted the dreams to stop. I wanted to get back to the confident clarity I'd felt just weeks before. Instead, the feelings intensified. I'd be in a meeting at work and suddenly remember the way Rodney laughed at his own jokes. I'd be out with friends and find myself wondering what he was doing, who he was talking to, whether he was dating anyone new. The panic started on a Thursday. I was eating lunch at my desk when suddenly I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing, my palms were sweating, and I felt like I was drowning in the middle of my office. "Are you okay?" my coworker asked, appearing at my cubicle with concern written across her face. "I'm fine," I managed. "Just need some air." But I wasn't fine. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every conversation Rodney and I had ever had about the future. The house he'd wanted to buy. The ring he'd been saving for. The life we'd been building together. What the hell had I done? The realization hit like a physical blow. I'd thrown away 5 years with the most caring, giving, loyal person I'd ever met. For what? A few months of surface-level freedom and casual dates that meant nothing. I called in sick the next day and spent it crying in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of who I'd been before I met Rodney. The posters and books and dreams that seemed so small compared to what I'd given up. My family's encouragement, which had felt so validating just weeks before, now seemed hollow and selfish. Where were they now when I was falling apart? My sister was busy with her own life. My parents were asking careful questions but offering no real support. "I think I made a mistake," I told my mother over dinner. "What kind of mistake?" "Leaving Rodney. I think I made the biggest mistake of my life." She looked uncomfortable. "You were so unhappy before. You said you felt trapped." I was confused. I was stupid. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was scared of commitment. If it's meant to be, maybe you can work things out. But what if it wasn't meant to be anymore? What if I'd waited too long, pushed too hard, hurt him too deeply? The panic became a daily occurrence. I'd be fine one moment and drowning the next, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what I'd lost. Sleep became impossible. Food had no taste. The job I'd been so excited about felt meaningless when I had no one to share my successes with. I started driving by our old apartment building on weekends, hoping to catch a glimpse of Rodney's car. When I finally saw it parked in its usual spot, I sat in my car for an hour trying to work up the courage to go upstairs. What would I say? How do you apologize for breaking someone's heart because you wanted to see what else was out there? 3 months after leaving, I finally called him. "Kelly." He sounded surprised but not unhappy to hear from me. "Hi. I know I don't have the right to call, but I needed to talk to you." "It's okay. I'm glad you called. I think I made a terrible mistake." Silence stretched between us. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. "What kind of mistake?" "Leaving you. Leaving us." I don't know what I was thinking. I was scared and confused, and I listened to all the wrong people. "Kelly. I love you," I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I know I have no right to say that after what I did, but I love you. I never stopped loving you. I was just too stupid and selfish to realize what I had." More silence. Then, "I appreciate you calling. I know that took courage. Can we try again? Can we work through this?" "I don't think that's possible." The words hit like a physical blow. "Why not? We were good together. We were happy. We were. But Kelly, you left. You walked away from 5 years without being able to explain why. You spent 3 months exploring other options while I was here trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. This was all me. I know that now. But it doesn't change what happened." I was crying now. ugly sobs that made it hard to speak. Please, Rodney. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make this right. I've moved on, Kelly. I had to. You made it clear that what we had wasn't enough for you. It was enough. It was everything. I was just too immature to see it. Maybe. But it's too late now. It doesn't have to be too late. We can start over. No, we can't. I can't go through this again. I can't be with someone who might wake up one day and decide they need to explore other options. I would never do that again. I know what I want now. You knew what you wanted 3 months ago, too. Or at least I thought you did. His words were like knives, each one finding its mark. But they were also true, which made them hurt worse. I understand why you can't trust me, I said. But people change. People grow. I'm not the same person who walked out that door. Neither am I. He paused, and in that silence, I felt the ground shifting beneath me. I'm with someone else now, Kelly. Someone who doesn't need to leave me to figure out if she wants to be with me. The world tilted sideways. You're dating someone? I am. And it's already serious. It's been 3 months. You made your choice. I made mine. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he was telling me. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said gently. But it can't be with me. Not anymore. The line went dead. I sat staring at my phone like it might ring again, like he might call back and tell me he'd changed his mind. He didn't. Now I wake up every morning to the reality of what I've done. The panic hasn't stopped. The dreams haven't stopped. The crushing weight of knowing I threw away the love of my life for absolutely nothing hasn't stopped. I'm 25 years old, living in my childhood bedroom, crying through lunch breaks at a job that feels meaningless without someone to share it with. My family's support has evaporated now that the consequences of their advice have become clear. The friends who encouraged me to explore my options have moved on to their own lives and problems. Words cannot explain how much I love that man. How much I miss the life we built together. How much I regret listening to people who told me I could do better when what I had was already perfect. I don't want to date other people. I don't want to explore my options. I don't want independence or freedom or any of the things I thought I needed. I want Rodney. I want our boring Sunday mornings and shared crossword puzzles and discussions about buying a house together. I want the life I threw away because I was too young and stupid and selfish to recognize it was everything I'd ever need. But wanting something doesn't mean you get to have it back. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some words can't be taken back. Some hearts can't be unbroken. I made the worst mistake of my life. And now I have to live with it every single day, knowing that somewhere in Charlotte, Rodney is building the life we should have had together with someone who was smart enough not to walk away. The good ones don't stay single long. By the time you figure out what you lost, they're already gone. I had everything, and I threw it away for nothing. Now I have nothing, and no amount of regret will bring him back.